What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And this one I want to talk about what's going on with NIO stock, what's happening to the overall market, and some very important levels to watch for. And I just want to remind you guys about something very important for tomorrow. But let me first say that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire community as a whole. So on TradingView, I have NIO right over here. I just want to note that there's not really any news that came out for NIO that's too crazy. They may be having earnings very, very soon. On top of that, there is this latest piece of news that came out that was bullish last time NIO popped. They're joining forces with another company for battery swapping developments, which is great news for them. But one of the things is that this was like the last major piece of news, and NIO is like starting to slow down since that came out. And from a technical standpoint, it's just very, very tight right now, going back and forth between supply and demand. So I believe that when you look at the current market, we're becoming a bit more greedy than before. We used to be, quite fearful just a month ago. Then we became neutral. Now we're just more on the greedy side, getting closer to these extremes. Market momentum is extremely greedy. If you look at the put and call options, they're on extreme greed. And if you look at the safe haven demand, this is on extreme greed as well. So it's very important to go over these and break down how the market's looking as time goes on. If anything, the market looks bullish overall, but for now, at least for like a really short period of time, there's going to be a good chance of some kind of pullback. So the reason I say that is because the market's hitting these extreme values, and we're going to be watching to see if there are any other like effects of that. So the best thing to do is just be as patient as possible as time goes on. So, anyways, I wanted to go back right over here, and I just want to mention that as far as NIO goes, it's getting tighter and tighter and tighter. And we're going to be watching to see if anything else develops right here. But as NIO is getting tighter, right, you can see that it's making higher highs and higher lows, at least from this period here. And then it's also getting rejected off this like trend line right over here. So it's getting very tight. And what I think is going to happen, at least for the next couple of trading days, I think it's just going to be very boring. I think we're just going to be stuck like this. And I think that NIO is just going to get tighter and tighter and tighter approaching the month of December. And then I think that deliveries slash earnings are going to like either launch it out of this, and we're going to see either a break to the upside or the downside. My gut's telling me we're going to see a move to the upside because of the fact that not only do we have these gaps up here, but we have a nice accumulation right here. And if you look at this from a historical basis, if I check out like the daily chart, let me just show you the daily, you will notice that we tend to see demand, high levels of demand at $7. If you go back to like May of this year, that's when we saw like NIO's deliveries not being the best because of factors affecting China. But if you look at this, demand was crazy high at the $7 area. Then we started to see just buyers pushing it back up towards that 200 EMA all over again. So with demand being at $7, it's going to likely continue on that trend. And I think that we're seeing this accumulation that's developing down here. So what this tells us is this could also be forming kind of like an inverse head and shoulders. So I could kind of see the structure here. It's getting very tight right now. I think that the demand is going to be restored at the $7 area as long as the earnings are not too bad and guidance is okay. And I think there's going to be a good chance of this potentially playing out and NIO making attempts to go higher. Now, earnings is going to be another big factor. We'll see how earnings affects this. Earnings could cause NIO to pump or dump, but as long as earnings are decent, I believe that NIO is going to be in a very good place, and I think that could be a potential buying opportunity. But one thing that's worth mentioning is that earnings will be key for it. So earnings may like cause some volatility as well, at least for the shorter term. But for the long term, I mean, buying at $7 or so, in my view, is not going to be like the worst of places because there's so much potential upside from there. There could be a risk of downside depending on earnings, but besides that, if we just kind of like factor that out, I would say that we're at a very, very good demand zone. I think there's a good chance of upside from here. We also have this inverse head and shoulders like structure that's developing that could lead to a lot more upside. And I believe that there's going to be even more potential as well. So it's looking quite nice right now. We're getting tighter and tighter, especially on the chart. I think that there could be a break in as long as we get the right information, a good earnings. And also, we're going to be looking at deliveries. I think that NIO has good potential for some good deliveries. So we're going to be watching that. as NIO chops around and trades sideways, I just want to call out that SPY has a rising wedge. Now, as of right now, it's uptrending. There's no sign of it breaking down yet. I thought it might see some downside after Nvidia's earnings. I was concerned about that, but it turns out it wasn't ready yet. So if it keeps going higher, we have some more levels to watch for. I just want to call out that we're going to be watching our previous support, which happened to be at that 452 area. That's going to be one of the key ones. I just want to keep this chart as clean as possible and just get rid of everything else I had previously, just to like start over. And then we're going to be watching this resistance from right here, this high we made right here at this like 456.4 area. And then we also have 455 as a very, very key level. We have supply and demand kind of like mixed over there. And then if we break 456.5, this entire range right here is where we have some tight resistance. We're going to be watching this high right here that we made back around this, like the August period. Excuse me, not August, the July period. We're going to be watching to see if 457 stops it, but it's going to be very important to watch those levels. Just know that we have a rising wedge, and if this breaks, this could lead to a big change in the overall structure. So it's going to be very important to watch that. Looking at the QQQ, I think something very similar is developing on the chart. Nice uptrend that's being respected. It's going to likely try to continue to go higher unless we get a break. Once it breaks below this area, one of the most important supports to watch will be this area right here, this 383. If that's lost, I think this imbalance down here will get touched, so we'll have potential to come down here. And then there's not that much room for it, basically. There's not that much support holding up above 383, so we're going to be watching that. And then we also have these resistance zones right here. We have 391 and 393 next. And also we have like 395 above that. So we're going to be watching these areas just to see if this holds. For now, there's a rising wedge, so just be very careful on it. Nvidia has a very different structure. I'm going to actually zoom it in a bit on the chart. On Nvidia stock, we got this rejection that happened after its overall earnings. And we got this slight downtrend that's starting to respect, but we're going to be watching to see if this thing continues to break down. One of the most important supports is going to be that 480 area, because 480 is where we ended up seeing these buyers just continuing to hold it up, at least during this period. So that's going to be key for us. And we're going to be watching to see what else happens, at least from the time being. But if anything, I mean, with this downtrend that's starting to respect on Nvidia stock, I believe that there is potential for more downside unless we try to get back above 495. If it breaks above 495, I'm going to turn more bullish on this, and it can start breaking back up to like 510. But as long as it's in this downtrend, we want to be very careful with Nvidia, and we're going to be watching to see how it moves. Now, if it is in a falling wedge right now, if it continues to downtrend, especially going into next week, there's going to be a breakout towards December that could still play out. But for now, the chart's looking a bit more bearish, so we're going to be waiting for that to develop as time goes on. As far as Tesla goes, I just want to call out that Tesla is kind of stuck right now. Tesla made an attempt to break out. You can see it formed like a double top and just rejected. And Tesla got a relatively weak close at this 233 area. So what I think is evidence right here is when you look at the daily chart on Tesla, Tesla has a very important daily chart. We're going to be watching that 200 EMA at 230. That's our support on the daily time frame. We also have like 231. So we're going to be watching those very carefully to see if there's some kind of rejection or not. And if it rejects off 230, there's going to be a move to the downside that's potentially going to happen. So look for this double top like pattern right here. This looks a bit more bearish. We could be forming like a flag here. So it's not looking the best, at least for the bulls. And finally, it's looking a little weak after Nvidia's earnings. So Nvidia is having a big effect on this because of the chip sector and how it's going to be impacted by China. So that's going to be very important. Could be forming a flag, so you want to be very careful during moments like these. If anything, the best thing I could tell you is just to be very patient as this develops and see if there's any sort of uptrend and watch for any kind of rejection after that. With that being said, I think I went over pretty much everything except for Aapl stock. Aapl, in my opinion, is looking a little bit weak as well. Got a nice rebound attempt before it came back down. So it got a nice push up, right? It pushed up higher, which is good. It's still uptrending. But the sign of weakness I'm getting from Aapl is the fact that, first off, it just barely closed green. And we have a daily looking potential topping tail that's forming, which could lead to this rejection right here. A topping candlestick could be another liquidity grab before it starts dropping. And when you go to the 4-hour time frame, you're going to notice that we have a potential another bearish divergence. This is like a triple, quadruple. This is like a more than a quadruple bearish divergence. So it's concerning to me. And I think you should be very careful with these technicals. Apple might start falling soon for a very temporary, healthy pullback. So we'll be watching this. I know the market's continuing to hold up. It could go a bit higher, but there's still a risk of downside coming in the future. All right, so we're going to be watching resistance. I'm going to be very careful, guys. And with that said, thank you all so much for listening. Have a good weekend. The market's going to be closed tomorrow, by the way, for Thanksgiving weekend in the USA. And I'll see you guys very soon. Thanks again, and peace out.